Okay, we are way overdue for a broadcast from Studio C here in Syracuse for a Freedom Friday podcast update. We've been missing quite a bit of stuff because I've been entirely too busy, but there's some pretty interesting stuff that's been going on lately. Let's first and foremost start with Biden and Biden's legal team is actually starting to take notice of negative polling numbers because people are literally paying double a gallon for gasoline of what they were a year ago. Now, the double gallon gasoline doesn't harm a lot of folks. It doesn't harm big fat cat politicians, the one percenters they claim to despise, and they're going to equalize the world by tearing them down one brick at a time. It harms your blue collar, everyday American folks through the Bible Belt, scattered, unfortunately, behind enemy lines in portions of California that the elite would like to just take for themselves. But when you're spending literally double to fill up your tank of what it was a year ago, it starts to make people pretty ornery. Now, you don't hear a lot about this, but there was some big polls, some trustworthy polls that came out about 2 weeks ago that show Biden polling at about a 36 to 38% favorability rate. That is absolute garbage in terms of a president who has not even completed his first year yet. So it's only going to get lower from there. Well, what you did see was the Biden group take notice of this and in their ongoing polls to try to make sure they stay favorable and not completely nuke the 2022 midterms, which are readily approaching us at what feels like a breakneck speed. But what does he do to fix this? Well, he sends his energy secretary to do some FaceTime with cameras and notify them that they're releasing the equivalent of 3 days worth of U.S. oil from the Strategic Oil Reserve. Well, number one, that's not going to hardly do anything to put a dent into what's going on. It's 3 days worth of fuel for America, 3 days worth. It's not going to do anything substantial. What it is going to do is it's going to dangerously interfere with our military might, because that's the primary reason the strategic reserve is there, is for military operations. And look no further than when the U.S. was bombing Japan, and a lot of their bombing runs, they were going over Japanese held air and held bases, and a lot of their Zeros and other planes were sitting parked idly on the runways and on the aprons of various airports. Why was this? Well, it's because they didn't have the hydrocarbons to get the planes started off the ground and in the air. And the ones that were in the air were being flown by pilots who had little to no experience because they didn't have enough hydrocarbons to properly train these airmen. So if you don't think this is a big deal, it's a very big deal. You don't tap into the strategic reserves to try to win favorability with the American public. But at least that's what common sense, traditional logic would tell you if you're the Biden campaign and you think maybe it'll buy you some preference points because somehow that's going to drastically reduce the cost of a gallon of gasoline for the average American voter, then yeah, you're all for that, I guess. So that's the first thing. The next thing is, if you were watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, they had a magical phone call where Dr. and Joe Biden called in to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Holy smokes, this guy is grasping for any political capital that he can possibly get his fingernails on. The guy is an absolute fraud. It's starting to come out that he's a fraud, and even the diehard Democrats. Boy, I'll tell you, I've got a lot of fairly liberal friends on my Facebook connections, and it's been eerily quiet. Since since they don't have the spoon-fed talking points to, the in-depth, intelligent talking points for them to post, like Orange Man Bad and things like this. Uh, they have nothing to say, absolutely nothing to say. And, I concede that they are in a pretty tight spot when you are doing nothing but trying to pull down the GOP, when you spent the last 4 years trying to do anything you can to discredit President Donald Trump, and now this is the nest that you're left with. I guess it's kind of good luck, every man for himself. Last one out, turn the lights off. But interesting times we live in. I think, looking back at the economy and stuff, if you look at the stock market, what's going on right now with the stock market, with pent up demand, with undersupply, the kinks in the supply chain that the good old mayor of a mediocre Americana town, old Pete Buttigieg, is dealing with after grappling with his maternity time off. This clown doesn't have a clue what's going on. He doesn't have a clue how to fix it. And if the private enterprise doesn't fix it, we're pretty much in a pickle here. And I think you are going to see widespread ramifications come down in the stock market in terms of we're slowly creeping out of what's been a bullish run for a lot of years. You're going to see a bearish economy. I think it's coming on rapidly. I think it's coming on very rapidly. And it would probably show up more if inflation wasn't so widespread. If you took the calculations for inflation out of the U.S. economy right now, we would already be, and have been in for quite some time, a very bearish economy. But because the economy itself hedges against those inflation numbers, when it does so, it appears that it's growing when it's really not. It's just kind of holding the status quo. So these are the fun things we've got to look forward to coming up in the weeks and months to come, as the economy is going to start to really struggle to tread water. The supply chain is already, and it's going to continue to struggle to tread water. And these are all the fun things that you and every other average American can look forward to. Outside of that, it is a Thanksgiving weekend, so remember that if you are living in America, you already won the ovarian lottery. And even despite some of the ramifications that the Democrats have rained down upon us over the last year, you live in the greatest country to ever grace the face of this planet Earth. And we do still have a lot of things to be grateful for. So head up, shoulders back, continue to push forward. And I need to start digging in and making a little more time and find some more in-depth material to bring to you guys. But appreciate the followers that I've got on the channel, continuing to grow that. I'm going to continue to try to do some extra things to grow that a little bit bigger and a little bit faster. Until next time, just keep doing what you're doing, because nobody else is going to do it if we don't.